Far beyond the familiar stars of the Milky Way, deep in the quiet reaches of the Andromeda sector, a peaceful alien civilization lived in harmony for centuries. Their world was a shining gem, rich with life and beauty, untouched by war or conflict. But that peace shattered when a dark shadow fell across their skies. A ruthless invader species descended without warning, bringing destruction wherever they went. Entire cities were reduced to rubble in moments, forests burned to ash, and the once thriving population found themselves hunted like prey. Desperation filled the hearts of these gentle beings as they realized their own defenses were no match for the overwhelming power of the invaders. With their hopes fading, the leaders sent out a desperate call for help, broadcasting a distress signal that cut through the void of space. This signal was a plea for survival, a message filled with fear but also with hope that someone, anyone, might answer. The Galactic Council, the body responsible for peace and cooperation among the many species scattered across the galaxy, received the message. The Council had seen many conflicts and had grown cautious over time, knowing that rushing to help could sometimes bring greater harm. Yet this plea was different. It spoke of a calamity so severe it threatened to erase an entire civilization from existence. After much debate, the Council decided to reach out to humanity, a species known across many star systems, not only for their resilience, but also for their unpredictability and fierce determination. Humans had a reputation for refusing to back down from a challenge, for their ability to adapt and overcome seemingly impossible odds. The Council believed that if anyone could help, it might be them. On Earth, the distress signal arrived in a classified communication at the Space Command, the heart of human operations beyond the planet. The room was silent as the message played, showing images of burning cities and pleading faces unlike anything the humans had seen before. The leaders of the world gathered to listen, watching the grainy footage with heavy hearts. Some felt fear at the unknown threat, others felt anger at the injustice, but all felt a stirring of something deeper, a call to action. For decades, humans had prepared for threats beyond their solar system, building warships and training crews. But this was the first time they were being asked to step into a conflict so far from home. The decision was far from simple. Some voices urged caution, arguing that humans should send diplomats or scientists first to understand the invaders and seek a peaceful solution. Others believed that showing strength was the only way to ensure survival, for the aliens and for humanity's future reputation. In the end, it was the human spirit of courage and resolve that won. Without hesitation, they chose to send a fleet of warships, fully armed and ready to fight. This decision shocked many in the Galactic Council. Across the galaxy, other species whispered in disbelief. Why would humans respond to a call for help with such force? Would this not escalate the conflict further? But humans saw the situation differently. They understood that some battles required swift and decisive action, that waiting could mean the extinction of an entire race. The preparation was swift. Warships that had long been held in reserve were brought out of standby, crews were called to their stations, and the best commanders were summoned to plan the mission. Behind the scenes, scientists worked furiously to gather as much information as possible about the invaders, about their strengths, weaknesses, and tactics. Every detail mattered. On Earth, as the fleet prepared to leave, ordinary people looked up at the night sky and wondered what awaited their soldiers so far away. News spread quickly, stirring both pride and fear. For many, this was the moment humanity would prove itself, not just as survivors on a single planet, but as protectors of the innocent across the stars. The warships launched, their engines glowing as they leapt into hyperspace, carrying the hopes and fears of millions. As they sped toward the Andromeda sector, the humans aboard knew the challenges ahead would be unlike any they had faced. The aliens who sent the distress call watched from their hiding places with a mixture of relief and disbelief, unsure if these strange new allies would be saviors or simply another force in a brutal war. The invaders, meanwhile, had no idea that their worst nightmare was on its way. Warriors who fought not just with weapons but with the unyielding will to protect the helpless. Suspense hung thick in the air across galaxies as the stage was set for a confrontation that could change the future of many worlds forever. when the Galactic Council announced humanity's decision to send a fleet of heavily armed warships instead of diplomats or scientists, the reaction across the galaxy was one of shock and confusion. Many species had expected a cautious, measured approach, perhaps envoys, peacekeepers, or negotiators arriving first to assess the situation and try to find a diplomatic solution. Instead, humans deployed an armada that gleamed with power and readiness for battle, a clear signal that they intended to end the threat swiftly and without compromise. Rumors spread quickly among the stars. Some questioned whether the humans were reckless or arrogant, wondering if this aggressive stance would only make the conflict worse. Others admired their boldness, seeing it as a sign of strength and determination that many other species lacked. The humans, however, were undeterred by the whispers. They understood better than most the cost of hesitation and the dangers of leaving those in peril to fend for themselves. Earth's history was filled with stories of invasions, wars, and brutal attacks where only decisive action had saved the day. That experience had shaped their approach. To them, sending diplomats first when an entire civilization was on the brink of destruction was not just risky, it was unacceptable. They knew the invaders would not pause or negotiate. These enemies thrived on fear and chaos, crushing any opposition without mercy. So the human commanders prepared for war, determined to protect the innocent and stop the invaders before more worlds fell. The fleet moved with purpose, traveling through space at speeds that made even veteran observers hold their breath. Each warship was equipped with the latest technology, weapons designed to outmatch the enemy's firepower, and crews trained in both strategy and courage. Humans aboard the ships felt the weight of their mission deeply. They were not just soldiers or pilots. They were guardians of hope for an alien people they had never met. As the Armada approached the troubled system, communications were opened to the Galactic Council and the alien civilization in distress. The humans made it clear that their goal was not to escalate the conflict but to end it, to bring safety and peace by defeating the invaders completely. This promise reassured the frightened aliens who had begun to lose faith after months of destruction and loss. For the first time, they allowed themselves to believe that salvation was near. Meanwhile, the invaders monitored the approaching fleet with growing unease. Their confidence in a swift conquest faltered as they saw the size and strength of the human armada. Unlike previous enemies who had fled or surrendered, humans showed no signs of fear or hesitation. Their movements were calculated but bold, their willingness to fight obvious. The invaders realized this would not be a simple raid or a quick battle. They were facing a force prepared to challenge their dominance outright. Inside the human command ships, leaders studied every piece of intelligence, knowing that understanding the enemy's tactics was key to victory. They adapted quickly to new information, demonstrating a flexibility that surprised even their own allies. The human crews worked tirelessly, maintaining their ships and rehearsing maneuvers, ready for the inevitable confrontation. Tension grew as the gap between the two forces closed. Across the galaxy, species watched with bated breath, unsure of the outcome but captivated by the unfolding drama. Would humanity's gamble pay off? Could these newcomers truly save a civilization facing extinction? Or would the invaders crush them as they had so many others before? The answer remained uncertain, but one thing was clear. The galaxy had never seen humans respond to a call for help with such unwavering resolve. This was a moment of reckoning, not only for the alien world in peril but for humanity itself. Their actions would define how they were seen for generations to come, either as protectors or as reckless warriors. As the Armada prepared to enter the battle zone, the humans shared a silent promise among themselves. They would fight not for glory or conquest but for justice and the survival of those who could not defend themselves. This conviction gave them strength, and with every passing second the suspense grew. What would happen when human warships finally met the invaders face to face? The galaxy waited, holding its breath for the answer. The invaders approached the humans' arrival with the confidence of those who had never faced real resistance before. Their leaders mocked the humans as primitive creatures, armed with nothing more than basic weapons and crude tactics. To the invaders, the massive human fleet was just another force to crush, a momentary distraction before they continued their conquest across the galaxy. They believed their superior technology and long history of domination would ensure an easy victory. However, the moment the battle began, all assumptions shattered. The human warships moved with an unexpected precision and speed that caught the invaders off guard. Their tactics were not just about overwhelming firepower. They displayed a deep understanding of strategy, using their ships in coordinated attacks that disrupted enemy formations and targeted weak points with surgical accuracy. The humans combined advanced technology with creativity, deploying unmanned drones that could infiltrate enemy lines, using electronic warfare to confuse invader sensors and adapting their weapons to exploit the invaders' specific vulnerabilities. What shocked many was the humans' ability to quickly learn from each encounter, adjusting their methods mid-battle to counter the enemy's moves. The clash unfolded not only in the vastness of space, but also on the surface of the alien planet itself. Human ground forces landed in key areas, working alongside the native species to reclaim cities and protect survivors. The invaders expected easy victories on the planet's surface, but humans fought fiercely and with unrelenting determination. Their soldiers showed no hesitation in facing overwhelming odds, using both technology and guerrilla tactics to push back the enemy. Each victory, no matter how small, inspired hope among the alien population. As the battles continued, the aliens who had called for help began to see the humans in a completely different way. What they had initially thought of as unpredictable and perhaps reckless saviors were now fierce protectors, warriors willing to risk everything to ensure their survival. The bond between the two species grew stronger with every fight, built on respect and shared purpose. The invaders found themselves struggling not just against technology, but against a spirit they had never encountered before, a refusal to give up, a passion to defend the innocent that seemed to fuel the humans' strength. In space, the warships weaved through enemy fire, launching counterattacks and protecting each other with tight formations. Human captains showed quick thinking and boldness, often risking their own ships to save others. The invaders' commanders, once so sure of victory, grew frustrated as their forces suffered losses they could not explain. The battle became a test of wills as much as of weapons. Back on the planet, scenes of destruction mixed with moments of bravery and hope. Alien families hid in shelters, watching as humans fought side by side with their own defenders. Slowly, the tide of the battle shifted. The aliens began to believe that maybe survival was possible after all. For the first time since the invasion, fear was replaced with determination. As the fighting grew more intense, the human commanders sent messages of encouragement and reassurance to their crews and to the aliens. They promised that this fight was not just about war, but about justice and protecting life itself. Their words spread across communications networks, strengthening the resolve of those involved. Despite the many challenges, the humans never wavered. They faced losses and setbacks, but each time they rose again, learning, adapting, and pressing forward. Their resilience became legendary among the alien populations and even impressed some of the Galactic Council observers who had doubted their chances. The invaders, once arrogant and cruel, began to fear the humans. The phrase "fierce protectors" echoed through the stars as word spread of the humans' unexpected strength and unwavering courage. As the battle raged on, it became clear that this conflict was more than a fight for a single planet. It was a turning point that would change how the galaxy saw humanity forever. The invaders' arrogance had blinded them, and the humans' determination had proven unstoppable. This clash of worlds was far from over, but one thing was certain. Humans were not just allies. They were warriors who would fight to the very end to protect those who could not protect themselves. The fierce battles had taken their toll on both the humans and the alien defenders, yet amid the smoke and chaos of war, something extraordinary began to emerge, a bond forged not just in fire and struggle, but in mutual respect and shared purpose. As the last of the invader strongholds fell, humans and aliens stood side by side, breathing in the quiet aftermath, knowing that the fight was far from over, even though the tide had turned. The humans wasted no time in offering more than just protection. They opened their vast stores of knowledge and technology to their new allies, eager to help rebuild what had been shattered. Alien engineers and scientists worked alongside human experts, learning to repair defense systems, enhance communication networks, and develop new strategies that combined the strengths of both species. This exchange went beyond machinery and weapons. It became a sharing of ideas, culture, and hope. Slowly, alien cities once left in ruins began to stir with life again, rebuilt stronger and smarter than before. New defense grids, designed with human ingenuity and alien understanding, created a shield that would protect the planet against future threats. For the first time in generations, the aliens could breathe without fear, watching their world heal and grow under the watchful eyes of their human allies. Meanwhile, the invaders, once proud and overwhelming, found their forces crumbling. Their numbers were smaller, their morale broken, and their strategies no longer effective against the united front. The alliance of humans and aliens was proving too powerful, too resilient. The invaders tried desperate strikes, but these only revealed their weakness and hastened their defeat. Across the galaxy, observers began to speak of this new coalition with awe. Where there had been suspicion, there was now admiration for the cooperation that had arisen from such dark times. The Galactic Council, initially unsure about humanity's role, now recognized that this partnership was more than a simple alliance. It was a beacon of hope for all species threatened by violence and conquest. The shared experience of war had changed the relationship between humans and aliens forever. What began as a mission to save one planet grew into a promise of ongoing support and unity. Trade agreements were discussed, cultural exchanges planned, and joint defense pacts drafted to ensure no species would face such destruction alone again. For many, this was a turning point, the moment when the galaxy began to look to humanity, not just as unpredictable fighters but as dependable partners and leaders. Yet even as peace seemed within reach, the humans and their new allies remained vigilant. They knew that the universe was vast and full of dangers waiting beyond the stars. The lessons learned in battle about trust, adaptation, and the strength found in unity would guide them forward. Stories of heroism and sacrifice spread through the alien worlds, inspiring younger generations to dream of a future where humans and aliens stood together against any threat. The alliance forged in fire was no longer just about survival. It had become a symbol of what could be achieved when differences were set aside for the greater good. As the humans prepared to depart, their warships no longer symbols of war but of hope, the aliens offered heartfelt thanks and invitations to return whenever needed. The galaxies watched closely, knowing that this new era of cooperation had only just begun. The battle had tested them all, but from the ashes rose a future brighter than any had imagined, a future built on respect, strength, and the unbreakable spirit of alliance. With the last echoes of battle fading into memory, the alien planet that had once teetered on the edge of destruction now stood safe and whole, thanks to the combined efforts of humans and their new allies. The invaders were defeated, their forces scattered and broken, unable to mount another strike against the now united defenders of the galaxy. As news of this great victory spread across star systems, humanity's reputation soared to heights never seen before. The Galactic Council, once wary of human unpredictability, now saw them as essential pillars of peace and justice. In a formal, ceremony broadcast to countless worlds, the Council extended an official invitation for humans to join as guardians of peace and defenders of the weak, a role that carried both great honor and immense responsibility. This invitation was more than a title. It was a recognition of the unique qualities humans brought to the galactic stage, their courage, their willingness to stand firm in the face of overwhelming danger, and their relentless spirit that refused to let others suffer alone. The humans accepted this role with humility and determination, understanding that their mission had only just begun. They would no longer be isolated defenders of Earth, but protectors of many worlds, ready to answer the call whenever help was needed. Preparations began swiftly. Human leaders gathered with their alien counterparts to plan coordinated efforts for future threats, to build alliances, and to ensure that no civilization would ever again face destruction without aid. Warships that had once been symbols of conflict were now transformed into fleets of peacekeepers, equipped not just with powerful weapons but with advanced technology designed for rescue, defense, and support missions. On Earth, ordinary people looked up at the stars with a renewed sense of pride and hope. They knew their soldiers, scientists, and explorers were no longer just guardians of their own planet, but heroes of the galaxy, carrying the light of justice into the darkest corners of space. Stories of human bravery and sacrifice became legends among the alien worlds, inspiring new generations to believe in unity and cooperation beyond borders. The humans themselves were aware of the challenges ahead. The universe was vast, and threats could come from places no one yet understood. But they also knew that together, with their allies, they could face anything. Their training continued, their fleets expanded, and their resolve strengthened. Behind every warship and command center was a promise that when any species cried out for help, humanity would be there, not with empty words, but with strength, courage, and unwavering commitment. As the human fleet prepared for its next mission, ready to journey into unknown space, the lessons of this conflict remained fresh in their minds. They had learned that true power came not from domination, but from protecting those who could not protect themselves. The galaxy watched closely, waiting to see what new chapters would unfold in this ongoing story of guardianship. The humans' role as peacekeepers was no longer a hope or a possibility. It was a reality, one forged through fire and tested in battle. This new era promised not just peace but a future where diverse worlds could stand together, united by the common goal of survival and justice. The story of humans answering the call for help with warships ready to fight was far from over. It was only the beginning of a legacy that would echo through the stars for generations to come.